Good morning and now good afternoon. Welcome everybody to our webinar. We're so excited today because we have a lot of great information on our topic, Training Like an Olympian, with tips from a Team USA doctor. And it's going to be a fantastic presentation. You know, I'm the moderator and I also control the instant replay. So get ready for some fun. We're glad you're here. And as your moderator, I have a number of special skills. For one, I'm going to be running the telestrator, so if you see anything that needs highlighting, then we can do that. And nice. That's Dr. Kevin deWeber, who's on the line with us. And it's going to be a great program that we have for you today. And very excited to move forward with the normal non-drawing mode.
I like the mustache.
So getting to know you. Polls throughout the webinar. We want to know what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And so we're going to be popping up a number of different questions for you to answer. For sound quality, everybody is muted except for me and Dr. deWeber. If you have any technical difficulties like I just did, click the help button. And I click the help button and help arrives, so I would recommend it. And you can type your questions or comments anytime in the question box. If you're listening on your smartphone, then all you need to do is tap the question mark and then type the button. It'll show up here and we'll answer it straight away. And for one person who's on our webinar today, we are going to be giving away a Fitbit at the end of this webinar. So stay tuned for the entire 60 minutes and you could be winning this. It's a great way to help monitor your activity and make sure that you stay healthy, perhaps as healthy as an Olympian. Now a little bit about Dr. deWeber. He is going to be our speaker. He's a primary care sports medicine specialist. He's been on the Olympic medical team since 2012, preparing athletes for the London Games, but he actually got to go down with the team in Rio in 2016, a 29-year Army veteran, a former physician for the Army World-Class Athlete Program, and he knows a little about martial arts and self-defense too, and I think you'll find throughout our upcoming webinar that fitness is a central part of who he is and what he's all about, so we can learn a lot from him. Dr. deWeber, welcome to the webinar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Randy. Welcome to everybody out there. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on the screen here. I'm going to try to get my page down button to work. Let's see if that'll work. I'm going to put this on presentation mode one more time. There, we got it. Just a little overview of what we're going to be talking about here today. We're going to give you a quick overview of how Olympic medical care is organized, because that's what I was involved with. And I also got a chance to live with Olympians, and so I'll show you kind of what a day was like living on an Olympic training center in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I learned a fair amount just from watching them, and I've also learned a fair amount over the years just studying medicine and specializing in sports medicine, and I wanted to share a few things with you guys at the end as well to help you guys be successful in your endeavors. So we're going to start with a poll. What is your favorite Summer Olympic event? So Randy's going to tally the results for you guys. You guys can select your answer.
All right, so here's our poll. Did watching the Olympics inspire you to become healthier? And you have several choices here. No.
Hey Randy, that's a different one than was on my screen. This one is
how about if I close that one then?
Yeah. What's your favorite Summer Olympic event?
Okay, what is your favorite Summer Olympic event? Well, we gave everybody a preview of the poll that's coming up. So your favorite Summer Olympic event, is it swimming? Is it gymnastics? Is it track and field? Or is it team sports? Or if it's a different poll, an other, you can type your answer in the chat window. And people are typing in right now. It looks like gymnastics is the leader, and that was a lot of fun. And I know that you had a chance to spend some time with the U.S. gymnastics team this year.
I did a little bit with some of the athletes, that is.
All right, it looks like all of our polls are in, and the answer, the winning answer here, not the winning, but it looks like the leader was gymnastics, 39%, followed by swimming at 27%, 22% in track and field. Other was 10%, and team sports at 2%. Very interesting.
All right. Well, here's a little bit about Olympic medical care. First off, there's several tiers of Olympic medical care. Each host country, and in this case Brazil was a host country, they're the organizers of the Olympics, and so they organize medical care at each venue. In other words, like at the track and field stadium or the marathon location or the taekwondo arena. They organize medical providers, and they can pull providers not only from Brazil but from almost any country in the world. At the Olympic Village, the Brazilians also had what they called a polyclinic. It was really a huge clinic with high-level support, emergency and routine care, MRI, CT, dental, a big pharmacy, and so on. And then there's the local hospitals that are in Brazil that kind of act in support. Now, large countries like the USA will usually bring some of their own medical providers. USA brings quite a few. There's kind of two levels of medical support that the USA brings. There's the clinics for Big Team USA, and of those clinics there were 5 physicians and quite a few other providers like chiropractors and physical therapists and massage therapists, and those were located on the training centers in the Olympic Village. Also, each team, for instance USA Wrestling or USA Fencing, they have a pool of doctors and massage therapists and physical therapists that kind of travel with the teams throughout the years before the Olympics, and they can pick and choose which ones they want to bring with them. So some of the teams brought their own doctor, or some brought their own physical therapists, and so these Team USA clinics were basically a level 2 tier support to the providers who were kind of practicing out of the equipment in their bags. We had quite a bit larger clinics. So here is a view of Rio de Janeiro. This is kind of the city of Rio. It's huge. Most of the events, about 60% of the events, took place in the southern part of the city called Baja. And right here was where the Olympic Village is. And if you see this little green area, right there is where the USA decided to put one of its training centers called Lonier. They also put a training center right about here in town, and they put a third training center right over here at the Navy School. Each of those training centers had its own clinic. This one, the one that I worked at, the Lonier High Performance Training Center, was the largest of the 3 training centers for Team USA. It was the only one that was a 24/7 operation. The other ones were just open about 8 hours a day or so. So we had people not only training at Lonier, but we had people living at Lonier. And I was responsible for about 250 athletes, coaches, and staff. So this is an aerial view of Lonier. It's basically a summer camp. It's somewhere where you might send your teenager to go for a week or 2 during summer vacation to learn a certain skill, play a sport, do Bible camp, things like that. Several acres, bunch of buildings, bunch of sporting fields. And we pretty much went in and took over the whole thing for several months. We actually started doing renovations back in March, renovated kitchens, bathrooms, dormitories, things like that, but also relied on the Brazilian local staff to help run it. So these are some of the buildings at Lonier. Here's our headquarters building with its drive-up, drop-off area. Just one of the central lawns. Just really kind of a neat resort feel to it. And this is our clinic building, thatched roof and all. We had the upper floor, and the lower floor was the Taekwondo training gym. So this training center was at a very secluded, very secure, peaceful, quiet environment where the Olympic athletes could train, could eat, could sleep if they wanted to. A lot of them lived at the village, but would come over to Lonier and train during the day and then go back to the village and sleep. But some of the Olympians actually lived there as well. Well, here's what our clinic looked like when I got there. We had these big pallets of equipment that had been shipped overseas and arrived at Lonier a month ago and were sitting waiting for me to get there. So what started as this is the upper floor of our clinic building and a big huge pile of boxes, over a 2-day period of time, the 4 of us staff put everything together and resulted in this really nice clinic that brought a level of medical care to the side of the Olympics that the USA athletes were used to. That way, if they got sick or injured, they didn't have to go see a provider who practiced medicine differently than they were used to. They got basically the same level of care. So this is a view from the back end, and just kind of a walkthrough of our clinic. This is an area where there's for athletic taping and strapping, and there's a cabinet here where we had our prescriptions. We had both walk-in, like over-the-counter type cold medicines, antacids and Pepto-Bismol and ibuprofen. We also had a supply of prescriptions as well. We used some little barriers to partition off a little private area where I could do examinations and evals. And this is our manual therapy area. This is really where most of the work took place. The physical therapist, the chiropractor, and the massage therapist took care of most of the sprains, strains, and musculoskeletal kind of things. They asked me to help out if they were unsure of a diagnosis or something like that, but they pretty much did all the rehab and a lot of the treatment. I, as a provider, I took care of mainly people who were ill, so colds, sinus infection, skin infection, upset stomachs, allergies, things like that, plus occasional musculoskeletal and sports-related things. So there was the back section of the clinic had some devices that were for athlete recovery. So if they just had a sore muscle, a sore joint, they could come back and kind of do self-help. This is a device made by Normatec where you slip these sleeves over your legs and you hook them to this pump, and it squeezes the old tired blood out of the muscles that have been working hard over the last few hours and lets it fill up with new fresh blood, and it definitely makes a huge difference in how athletes feel. I went and used them after playing soccer for quite a while, and I'm not used to playing soccer, and my legs were kind of rubbery. And I used these things, and in 20 minutes, man, my legs felt like new, so they're pretty legit. And another device that the athletes use quite a bit is these cooling devices. It's pretty neat. You put some ice water in this tank, you slip this sleeve around your ankle or around your elbow or whatever body part is a little sore, you turn it on and it pumps nice fresh cold water throughout the thing, provides some compression, and is basically clean and dry. So really good self-help stuff for the athletes. We had a pretty good supply of emergency equipment ready right at the front door in case we had an emergency on the base, and thank God we did not have any serious emergencies in the 5 weeks that I was there at the Olympics. Just in case, I was practicing my neck brace fitting, and so I had some of the Olympic boxing coaches come in and help me out. This is one example. All right, at this point, I'm just going to open it up for any questions.
Yeah, this is a great time to remind people that you have a questions box. If you have any questions for Dr. deWeber, just type them in there, and we'll select the ones that would be best for him to answer and pop them up for your review. So at this time, we don't have any questions, but I think people are scrambling for their keyboards right now. So Dr. deWeber, I'll let you know when some of those come in.
Okay. Shall I just continue on?
All right, one just came in. Can we win the Normatec instead of the Fitbit? Well, we won't leave that question for Dr. deWeber. We'll have the people behind the scenes answer that question.
Those things are awesome. Yeah, I would, if I were a serious athlete, I would be considering buying one of those things myself. I think they're about $3,000 to $5,000. So, all right. So,
Dr. deWeber, I do have one question for you that came in. How many athletes did you see on a daily basis? Not necessarily even for treatment, but you've rubbed elbows while you're eating breakfast with people too.
Yeah, there were probably somewhere around, depending on the time in the Olympics, there were anywhere from about 50 to 150 athletes that were there. We would see some of them during breakfast, but usually during lunch was a peak time, and of course throughout the training day. And I'll show you kind of what a day-to-day experience was like in a little bit here. But as far as in the clinic, I saw an average of about, I'd say, 5 to 10 athletes in a day. Really, it wasn't that busy in the clinic. These are really healthy people. For the most part, their health is really at a fine peak, and and they just didn't get sick or injured very much, but we were available if they did.
I think you have some cool pictures of the Olympic Village here.
Yeah, so I did not live at the Olympic Village. I only got to visit there one time. The credentials required to get into it were actually very tightly held, and you could only get there if you had a job there or if you lived there. So I only got to visit briefly, it's basically a small city with high-rise apartment buildings. This is the entrance. And within the buildings is just a really nice recreation area. This is a view kind of towards the little hills where Lonier was nestled. We were about a half a mile away. Each country would put up their flags on their building, and just really great places to go visit with athletes, trade pins, things like that. This is the cafeteria. This is, I think, the biggest cafeteria I've ever seen in my life. It's about the size of 2 football fields. And the food served here was decent. I didn't get to eat it, just had lots of reports from athletes. Pretty good selection, a little on the bland side, which is probably okay if you're trying to avoid any GI upset. But I was told by many athletes the food at Lonier Training Center was quite a bit better, and I'll show you why that is later. So this is the big polyclinic that I mentioned. This is where basically any athlete can go, and they might encounter a doctor from Australia or Brazil or US or something like that. It's really a kind of an international clinic.
Dr. Weber, this is a good time to ask a question that came in. Did you get to see how other people practice medicine? Do the Brazilians practice medicine differently? Did you learn anything from them, or were you able to teach them anything?
I did not interact very much with the Brazilians. I did get to visit their hospital, and what I saw there had a standard of care that was very similar to what we have in the United States. So this is the Olympic Village Clinic for the USA, and this is a picture of Dr. Bill Moreau, who is the Chief Medical Officer for Team USA. He's the one who hand selects all the providers. This doctor here is Dr. Dave Haight. He was one of the sports med family medicine doctors at the Olympic Training Center. Quite proud of this guy because I trained him several years ago in the sports medicine program while I was in the military, and he is still on active duty in the Army at Fort Lewis, Washington. And I'm insanely jealous because he got to walk in the opening ceremonies and he got to meet Michael Phelps. So anyway, very proud of Dr. Haight. So this is the entrance to...
The photo of the fellow who chose the team. How were you chosen to go to the Olympics? That's one of the questions from our audience.
Yes. So in addition to having several years of sports medicine experience with elite athletes, I volunteered 2 weeks of my time, full-time, living at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, taking care of the athletes. And my 2-week volunteer duty happened to be immediately before the London Olympics, and so I got to treat a lot of the Olympic teams, like the men's gymnastics team and the boxing team and the wrestling teams and modern pentathlete and fencers and so on. And during that time, basically the full-time Olympic medical staff was looking to see if I'm good at what I do, if I get along well with people, and if I work well as a team. And those people that they think would be a good fit for traveling with Olympic teams are sometimes invited to participate in the Olympics, and that's how I got my invitation. So this is a view of the entrance into the USA's medical clinic at the Olympic Village. They actually did not have as much space as we did, so they kind of crammed a lot of stuff into a smaller space. But again, here's a big manual therapy section, and they were right on the ground floor of the USA building. The USA had its whole building to itself. This is the other side. They had kind of a private area for evaluations and screening. This was a really interesting device. BioFire is a way that you can take a sample from somebody's throat or nose, or maybe a stool sample, and within an hour it will tell you which virus or which bacteria that they have, which can really help direct therapy more effectively. So a really powerful technology that was at our fingertips. This is a prescription drawer. One of the doctors, Dr. Isono, is the team doctor for the Golden State Warriors basketball team. This is a diagnostic ultrasound that they brought. This is one of the skills that I do as well. And this is a recovery area at the Olympic Training Center clinic. the Olympic Village Clinic. And USA brought 4 of these tubs. These are pretty sweet. You can either have them as a cold tub for cold therapy or as a hot tub. And so athletes can hop in these and get therapy. And then just a little bit about the Brazilian medical support too. This was my limo, so to speak, and my chauffeur taking me to the Brazilian hospital, Hospital Samaritano, which is a brand new hospital built actually by a USA company that provides an excellent level of support. And so if we had any severe emergencies that needed to be transported here, we would call the ambulance, they would pick them up, take them here. I would get to ride along, and I would get to help participate in the care. And just I met several of the doctors here. They speak English. A lot of them are trained in the United States, and they practice at a very similar level of care as we did. And this is one of their sort of like their VIP inpatient rooms. These 3 people here are the executives for the hospital, and this is the head team physician for Team USA, Dr. Dave Weinstein. Any other questions at this point?
Yeah, we have a number of questions. Corinne asks, was that time with the Olympics, did you volunteer your time, or did you get to be on the payroll of the U.S. Olympic team?
It's all volunteer. So, for instance, in 2012, I took 2 vacation weeks and went and served, and I provided my own flight there and back, but when I was at the Olympic Training Center, they put me up basically in their dormitory and fed me well. So I lived on the training center at their expense, but provided for my own transportation. And then while at the Olympics, we are not paid providers, we're volunteers. But again, at this time they did provide my transportation, and they provided us just a small daily stipend, but it's really just enough to kind of buy toiletries and things like that.
You did this really as a service to your country. Well done. Another question from Kim. So before the Olympics, we in the U.S. heard nothing but Zika virus and sewage in the water and things like that. Now you've been there. Would you, now having seen it firsthand, would you go back to Brazil as a tourist?
I think I would. It's a beautiful place. The people are warm. The people are friendly. The natural beauty is amazing, and there's a lot of culture there. So yes, I would. However, it is South America, and there are some things that you kind of got to get used to that are not quite up to what we're used to. For instance, the plumbing often doesn't work as well as it does in the United States, and the electrical may not be quite as reliable. And there are certain areas where the waters are polluted, and so you just got to be careful. But definitely worth a visit. It's a beautiful place with good people.
All right, those are some great questions, and we have more coming, and we'll spool those out to you throughout the presentation.
All right, so let's go to the next poll. So Randy, the poll here that is, have you been or are you now in competitive athletics, and if so, what sport or sports? Did you get that one, Randy?
Yes, we've launched this poll, have you been or are you now in competitive athletics? And we can see people who are racing to their keyboards to type in. The answers are no, never been in competitive athletics. Yes, in an individual sport, one of the loner sports like cross country. Yes, in a team sport, volleyball, baseball, football, and yes, in both individual and team sports. And it looks like, this is a little bit surprising. I would have thought that, you know, America is such a competitive nation, and we do love our sports. Oops, America is such a competitive nation, and we do love our sports. I would have thought that that the answer would have been more, yes, I did individuals, yes, I did teams, yes, I did both, but it looks like more of the people here who are listening have not been in competitive athletics. And really that's fantastic, because these are folks that you have an important message for.
Right, and it's not that you have to be involved in competitive athletics in order to be healthy, but just doing something active is the main thing. So I wanted to spend a little time here just talking about what a typical day was like at the training center, because this is where I think the real fascinating stuff is. So I would wake up every day in my cute little dorm room that I shared with one of our medical staff. These were basically the size of the rooms at the Olympic Village Clinic as well, and I shared this little tiny wardrobe and a small bathroom. So no great accommodations there, but of course the rest of the complex was just amazing. This is our cafeteria, and so we'd go and eat breakfast, and usually this was the time where I would get to interact with coaches and athletes and just talk with them and get to know them and tell them that we were available for medical support if they needed it. So we brought down our same cooks from the Colorado Springs Training Center and had them cook for us down there. And this is Flower. She has been working in Colorado Springs for almost 20 years. She is amazing. Not only a nice person, but just a great cook. This is her fixing me up some teriyaki. They had this custom grill that served different meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They had this huge four-sided buffet type area where you could grab hot food, soups, salads, cold cut sandwiches, fruit, I mean just about everything you could think of, and a really good tasting food with a great variety. And the main thing was that it was foods that the athletes were used to having so that their GI systems didn't get upset with a bunch of new stuff. Just a typical view from the cafeteria. This is one of the massage therapists from wrestling, and this is one of the gold medalist winners wrestlers. So, just kind of a typical day where we would just watch some sports on TV as we're eating breakfast for lunch. This young lady here is Clarissa Shields. Some of you may recognize her as the gold medalist from the London Games in boxing. And this was the morning that she went and won the gold medal again in Rio, and she's America's first back-to-back gold medalist in boxing. Just a tremendous athlete. There's her with her 2 gold medals. And another morning, this young man was there, Shakur Stevenson. He's also a young boxer, and this was the morning that he went off to compete for his gold medal. He barely lost that match by split decision and won the silver medal. He was kind of disappointed in his silver, but we were really proud of him. He's one of the youngest boxers to medal. So that's just typical breakfast, getting to talk with athletes. Sometimes they're on their way out to competition, and we'd just cheer them on. So after breakfast, I would typically go up to the clinic and be available. Really, this is kind of how it was typically. You can see the clinic is empty. We're really just available. There were 4 medical providers, so we would usually each do a 3-hour shift so that our clinic was open, with the doors open 12 hours a day, and then we would just be on call for the rest of the time. So, since I was the only doctor on the base, I was essentially on call 24/7 for 34 days for everybody. When it wasn't busy, I had this TV right in front of me, so I could actually choose a live Olympic sport feed and watch what was going on. Sometimes I would go to a staff meeting, and sometimes they would make faces at me when I took their pictures. These are the Olympic Training Center staff and some volunteers, just tremendously professional people who, these are the behind-the-scenes people who pull off the Olympics and help athletes earning medals by just providing tremendous medical support. So this is just a daily planning meeting. This was our gym at the Lanier Training Center. It doesn't look like it's super high tech, but it's got the basics. It's got your weightlifting, it's got some squat racks and pull-up bars and some cardio machines and a universal type gym and some core training equipment. It's really all that the athletes needed in order to kind of just maintain their fitness. They weren't there to bulk up. They weren't there to get in better shape because they're already in good shape. They just needed somewhere to do some basic exercise and just maintain. And I used to spend 30 to 60 minutes in there a day just working out as well. One of the other options for working out was these jungle stairs. These are awesome. This is our massage therapist getting ready to do some stairs. 171 steps straight up into the jungle. And sometimes if you were lucky, you'd see a macaque, a monkey. This is a picture I took of one up there. And then if you had some time, you could go and sit out of the pool. We occasionally had some tours. This was a Japanese group that came by to visit the base. So these folks are going to host us at the Tokyo Summer Olympics in 2020. And we will be using their facility for our training center there. And so they wanted to kind of get a sneak peek about how the USA would be using their facility as a training center in Tokyo. So they visited. I also got a visit from the Portland, Oregon area's NBC TV affiliate, Stephanie Strickland and her cameraman, Dustin. They came and did a little feature on Olympic medicine. And then this is an area in the staff building where we kind of kept a running tally of the medal count. So this is kind of what it looked like at the end. So really during the day, mostly I just got to go around and watch training, which was awesome. So I could literally sit at the feet of the archery team, men's archery team, as they practice, and watch them as Brady Ellison tweaked his bow. And this is Mackenzie Brown, who was done practicing, and she was actually spotting monkeys up on the hillside. This is Brady Ellison. He ended up winning. I love this guy because he's a bow hunter, and I'm a bow hunter, and he was on the Bow Hunting magazine recently, so he and I hit it off pretty well. But he ended up doing very well. He earned not only the individual bronze, but also a team silver, and this is me holding my very first ever Olympic medal. This is one of the archery team medals, the silver medal.
Dr. deWeber, Tony asked a question that might come in play here. He wants to know what your most exciting time was when you were in Rio. Maybe it was holding that medal for the first time.
Actually, that was number 2 exciting time. I think the number 1 most exciting was seeing Helen Maroulis win the wrestling gold medal, and I've got a few pictures coming up about her in a little bit. So we had a large gym area for the fencing teams. There's 3 fencing weapons. There's saber, there's épée, and there's foil, and they each have different rules, and the swords are slightly different. This is the foil team practicing. I got to just get a great upfront look at their training, talk to their head coach. This is Greg Macialis, the head coach's personal equipment. I was admiring it, trying not to drool on it very much, and he said, "Hey, why don't you put it on and let me get a picture?" So, I mean, just really nice people that were really eager to talk to us about their sport, and it was pretty neat. You can see the wrestling mats over on the far side of the gym. We'll get to that in a little bit. This is head coach Macialis' son, Alex. Alex ended up winning not only a team silver, but an individual silver in foil. This is him winning the team silver medal. And some of us in the Portland, Vancouver area may recognize Mariel Zagunis in the saber team. This is her sparring with the saber team, and this is them winning the bronze medal. Some of you may recognize Ibtihaj Mohammed and Annika Aksamet and Daga Wozniak as well, because they got a fair amount of press, the saber team did. Really great people. This is Mariel Zagunis later on after she won her medal, and one of the other saber athletes. So gymnastics. The Lonier Training Center did not have a gymnastics training area. The gymnasts train at a different training center for the USA that was called Flamingo on the other side of town. So, but we did house the alternate athletes for gymnastics. So what you didn't see on TV were these 3 young ladies who just barely didn't make the front team cut, but they got to travel to Rio so that if one of the other athletes was injured or sick, they could step in on a moment's notice and perform for our country. Just really wonderful young ladies that lived at our complex. They would eat breakfast with us, and then they would bus to the training center for the whole day, and then they would come back totally worn out, and we would take care of them in the evenings and got to know them. Really delightful ladies. And similarly, the men's gymnastics team had 2 replacement athletes, these 2 guys that lived at our base as the alternate athletes too. So we cared for them and got to know them. But the men's main team, they lived at the Olympic Village and got their medical care at the Olympic Village. So I didn't get to interact with them very much. Did see them at the airport on the way home though. So one of the other training areas that I watched was Taekwondo. One of the big reasons that the Olympic committee put me here at this Lonier Training Center was because of my combat sports background, not only my service in the U.S. Army to the warrior athletes, but also I've been around the world with wrestlers and boxers and taekwondo and judo and so on, and so they handpicked me for this training center which hosted the combat sports. So got to watch with the front row seat as the taekwondo teams trained. Some of you may recognize Stephen Lopez, who is the most decorated taekwondo athlete in the world from any country, with 2 golds and a bronze, and this was his 5th Olympics. And this is his younger brother, Mark. They're just super, really nice people, very down to earth. And Mark is also a former silver medalist Olympics. Unfortunately, Stephen did not medal. He lost the bronze medal match, barely. This was another of our Olympic athletes, a former Olympian and a former Olympic medalist, Paige McPherson. Really doing some really interesting training here. This is her coach, and he would Velcro these electronic light flashers on the wall, and then he would control the sequence using this computer panel right there, and they would flash for just a moment, and she had to balance on one leg and flick her foot up there and get her toes within like about an inch in order to score a point. So this is a speed and accuracy drill that he felt was really enhancing her competitive edge. Of course, I like to try what the athletes are doing. I used to practice Taekwondo too, so I wanted to try the headgear on, which is a new kind of headgear. And I didn't know until later that I got bunny-eared by the orthopedic surgeon for
She doesn't look like she's too
team.
intimidated by you, and
No.
you know, you don't look too threatening there that she was afraid.
No, not so much. And this is our only Taekwondo athlete actually who won a medal of the 4 athletes that were there. This is Jackie Galloway and her dad, who's the head coach. She ended up winning the bronze medal in Taekwondo. So I watched a lot of wrestling. This is the practice gym. These are the practice dummies who are getting ready to welcome the team. Practice dummies had a lot of function here. They guarded the shoes. They supported the head coach. So, you know, really important parts of the team here. But just getting to sit right on the mat and watch these guys was pretty tremendous. This is Jordan Burroughs, who won the gold in wrestling at London, but did not medal at this Olympics. This is kind of funny because this is a game called Spike Ball. I'd never seen this before, but the wrestlers I don't think had either, but they loved it. So when they weren't wrestling, these guys were just playing with each other. I mean, this is one of the coaches. These are as a training partner. This is Jordan. So yeah, it's they had a lot of fun. In fact, one of the coaches busted up his ear just going all out with this game. This is Jaden Cox, who ended up winning the bronze medal. Just a tremendous young man, really humble. He donated some of his Olympic memorabilia to the USA Wrestling. He's going to donate this singlet, and here he is letting me hold his medal. And then this is Kyle Snyder, who is now the youngest person from USA Wrestling to win a gold medal in wrestling. Really proud of him too. Just another really tremendously nice man. And then really kind of the highlight for me at the Olympics was watching Helen Maroulis win a gold medal. She was not favored to win. She had to come down a weight class, about 8 pounds, to qualify for the Olympics. Furthermore, she had to compete in a weight class that had a Japanese woman who had won 15 years in a row, had won either the world medal, gold medal, or the Olympics. And she had to compete against this Japanese girl who was favored to win. And she overcame the odds and beat this Japanese young lady and won the gold. I just thought that was the high point for me, just watching her live on TV. Brought a lot of emotion because, you know, I had been seeing her a lot and talking with her a lot, both at the clinic and over meals and things like that. And just to see her win was awesome. So this is her back in her room showing me her gold medal. I got to hold that medal, which is just makes you weak in the knees. It really does. So that was a highlight for me. All right, that was kind of what a typical day was like. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Adam wants to know, what was the most unique case that you saw when you were there? I mean, was it just, were people having like nicks and cuts, or did you see anything more significant than that?
Yeah, I think I guess one of the most unique ones was the wrestling coach that I mentioned who cut his ear open. He had cauliflower ear to start with, and when his ear split open, it was interesting putting that thing back together. So there's that. And really the illnesses that I saw were kind of just run-of-the-mill kind of stuff, like allergies and colds and a sinus infection. I saw a case of impetigo, which is kind of a weepy, crusty skin rash on a judo athlete. Nothing exotic. You know, there were no cases of Zika, no cases of other tropical things like dengue. And, you know, the injuries were fairly common things like quad strains, hamstring strains, and rotator cuff overuse. And, you know.
Brenda has an interesting question. She wants to know if the athletes were open to receiving care from you, even though they might not have known you. It's like, who's this guy that I'm going to let train my Olympic body?
Yeah.
Or were they open to that?
Oh, they're very open. First off, I made a point of getting to know everybody, and I think this was the how I most valuably spent my time on the base, and that was getting to know people at breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or going to training and just talking, and not only telling them that I was there for them if they needed it, but just getting to know them. I mean, just for these are neat people, and then they got to know me in return. And so anytime they came to the clinic, they knew my face already, and so they were immediately comfortable with me taking care of them.
Next question comes from Effie, and it kind of leads into the important part of your webinar. She wants to know, what do you attribute to the Americans winning the most medals? Better training, healthier regimens, and I know you're going to show us what some of that training and regimen is.
Yeah, we won so many medals because they had such amazing medical support. That's what it was. I say that in jokingly, but a lot of reasons. I mean, we're a large country that has a tremendous amount of resources. We have very hardworking people. We have great coaches. We have financial support through the U.S. Olympic Committee, and that financial support allows them to fund a really good team of care to go to Brazil and care for them. And like I said, the U.S. tries to provide the same level of care in Brazil or in Russia or in wherever as they get in the United States. And I think that does provide somewhat of a competitive edge. It's the medical, it's the food that we cooked that was something that they're used to. That kind of thing. That's a part of how we're successful.
Saoirse asks, what are your tips for me to train like an Olympian? She has aspiration, and it starts now.
We're going to get to that here very shortly here. So I wanted to just show a few things. I didn't get away from our training center very often because, as I mentioned, I was the only doctor on call for about 250 people. But I did get 3 days off, and one at a time, of course, and they provided backup care for me while I was gone. So I got to visit some of the Olympic venues. I got to hold a torch. This is me going to a boxing event, the beach volleyball event, in Copacabana Beach. Beautiful. This is Copacabana from the beach volleyball venue. This is the taekwondo arena. This is the velodrome, speed cycling or sprint cycling arena with the cyclists. This is a really interesting sport, and I went to this because I didn't really know much about it, and I learned a ton because I sat next to the father of one of our Olympians. And then just a little bit of time chilling. You can see one of my favorite snacks that I brought from home. Love combos. I just don't eat too many of them. We'll get to that later. Christ the Redeemer is just an amazing sight to see, one of the wonders of the world. Definitely worth the visit to Brazil alone. And then USA House I got to visit a couple times. It's basically USA's celebration house, and once you get in, you get free food, free drink. The athletes will come by and show their medals. This is the doctor that USA had put there to take care of folks. He was actually busier than I was. He said he saw somewhere 10 to 15 patients a day. I only saw, maybe 3, 4, 5, something like that. Anyway, the roof had a great lounge. It looked over Ipanema Beach. And the archery team happened to wander by the USA House showing off their silver medals, so I got my picture with them. They already knew me from the training center. Other famous athletes will wander by, like Carrie Walsh-Jennings. And this is a mural that they had just inside the USA House, which I thought was awesome. It's just a snapshot from the opening ceremonies. Michael Phelps carrying the flag, but you can see the athletes will come by and they'll autograph it. And I thought this was pretty cool. Got to go in the Pacific Ocean. The beach was really clean. Actually, this is a beach that I biked to from our training center. It's about a half-hour bike ride. Really beautiful. You go to a little stand and they'll drill a hole in a fresh coconut and stick a straw in. You can suck the milk right out of it. That's just delicious. And then on the very last night, we got to go out. The Olympic Committee support staff got to go out to a Brazilian steakhouse. They call it churrascaria. So These waiters will bring by skewers of meat to your table, and you can just take pieces of whichever ones you want. It's awesome. All right, one last poll here before we talk about some actual health tips and recommendations. So, question, did watching the Olympics inspire you to become healthier?
Yes, and I believe I inadvertently opened this poll earlier, and people voted on it, and the answers are interesting. Fortunately, nobody said, no, my days of being physically fit are long past. So it sounds like everybody in our audience believes that they still have good days ahead. I'd like to get in better shape, but it seems impossible. So I might ask you the question, is that actually impossible?
Not at all. Not at all. It's never too late. It really is never too late.
Excellent. Well, what can people do? I mean, there might be people listening who are 35. There might be people who are listening who are 75. Yep. You know, the answers are different, but it's not impossible at any age.
So how to start an exercise program if you're just completely out of shape is a little bit of a different topic. I'll just have to suffice it to say that you need to just start with something easy and start with something not too vigorous, and then work up very slowly over the weeks and the months so that your body does not get overwhelmed. You don't get injuries and things like that. What I'm going to talk about is more sort of focused on people who already have some sort of semblance of physical fitness going, not necessarily elite, but these are some of the things that the elite athletes do. First off, get help from a professional if you're going to start an exercise program or change your exercise program. And that professional might be a fitness trainer, a group fitness instructor, a professional coach perhaps. It depends on what you're going to do. Okay, and set some sport-specific goals or activity-specific goals and base your activities on them. So if you're going to train for a marathon, you're obviously going to want to set some running goals. If you're going to compete in volleyball, then your training is going to be different. You might set a goal of increasing your vertical jump height or improving your shoulder range of motion and strength for spiking and things like that. So set some specific goals. And what I want to emphasize is be diverse in your exercise and incorporate all 4 types of exercise, which are strength, endurance, flexibility, and balance into your regimen, because all of these are important parts of the whole fitness package. Okay. People who are really serious about their athletics will periodize their year into phases. In other words, they won't just do the same old exercise day in, day out for all year long. They separate it out. They'll maybe do 6 weeks of power training and then 6 weeks of muscle building training and then 6 weeks of muscle endurance and cardio training, and then maybe 6 weeks of kind of maintenance, active rest, that kind of thing. So they sort of break it up, and that's because we've found through research that your body needs to be shown different things at different times in order to respond. If you just do the same thing all the time, yeah, you're going to benefit from it, but your body's going to sort of become complacent and it won't improve as much as you could if you didn't vary it up. So vary it up, periodization. And then definitely add something fun to the mix. So you saw the picture of the wrestlers playing spike ball. That was a good example. You know, they're obviously spending a couple, 3 hours a day wrestling on the mat, things like that, and doing their cardio exercise and doing some weight training. But then they played spike ball because it was fun, it was athletic, it burned some calories, they got some social interaction, they got to know each other better. And so, you know, pick something that you're going to enjoy. So just my personal exercise habits, this is just me. I go to the gym for about a half hour, about 3 to 4 days a week, and I just lift some weight. And then 2 nights a week, I do my fun stuff, and that is I do martial arts class. There's about 20, 30 people in there. There's some great folks that I've gotten to know over the years. We punch each other, we wrestle with each other, we practice stuff. It's fairly safe, it's done intelligently, but I really enjoy it. It's fun, and I actually get some benefit out of it because it's kind of like a self-defense skill. So you pick your own thing that's fun, and that'll keep it going. If you're doing something boring all the time, it's hard to keep it up. Okay, and that kind of just gets into avoiding staleness. Just vary it up a little bit. Questions on those?
We do have some questions here. One of the questions was, for personal fitness, not at the Olympic level, other than cardio, what do you recommend for lay people? Do you have a favorite? Cycling, swimming, pogo sticking?
Yeah, all those things are fine. Stationary bikes or regular bikes, swimming. There's also deep water running, which is running in the deep end of the pool where you can't touch the bottom and you just wear a little buoyancy belt so you don't have to thrash around. That's really good exercise. Elliptical trainer, rowing machines, brisk walking, jogging, even just vigorous lawn mowing is good aerobic exercise. So you can actually get useful work done while you're becoming healthy. So sky's the limit. There's a lot of different things you can do.
Vigorous lawn mowing. That question was
Vigorous.
from Stanja. Effie has another question. How many times a week would you recommend a beginning swimmer swim in order to get into a good, healthy regimen and get a little bit of cardio?
Yeah, I would say probably at least 3 days a week, and then over the next month, maybe increase it to 5 days a week. The serious Olympians, they're going to be training every day. They may have one rest day a week, but if you're just starting out, you're going to want to just take it easy because your body's not going to be used to that, and you're going to need some recovery days in the interim. And so just gradually work up from maybe 3 to 5 over a month's period of time.
All right, keep going.
All right. So eating habits. So as you know, I lived with these Olympians in Rio, and I also lived with the Olympians in Colorado Springs before the London Games. So I kind of watched what they do and watched what they eat a little bit, and there's some general guidelines. What I want to say first is that each athlete is different, and it partially depends on their sport about what they eat and how they eat. So what you eat is going to be determined by the activity that you do. If you are a wrestler, then you have to make weight, and so you have to be very careful about not putting on too much body fat, and so your diet is going to be not only lower in calories but probably lower in fat as well. Now contrast that with maybe a power lifter who doesn't have to worry about body fat quite as much. They're more worried about muscle mass, so their goals are going to be different. So that's just an example. So seek help from a professional depending on what goals that you have. Before you make any big changes, just get to see a dietitian or maybe talk to your family physician or your sports medicine physician or consult a reputable website before you make any big changes. Okay. If you're a competitive athlete, even if it's just friendly competition or maybe it's the Olympics, whatever, never make changes just before competition. Now, I've seen athletes fall into this trap. They're always searching for that little thing that'll give them the edge, that certain food or that certain supplement, and they seem most interested in it just before competition, and so they'll make a change just before competition hoping it's going to give them the edge. Well, that's the wrong time to make the change just before competition. You want to make those changes weeks before because you're going to see how your body responds to it. A lot of times things will go wrong because they try something different and then their body's not used to it and they get side effects or whatever. So if you're going to make a change, do it weeks before you compete. Okay. As you go, just set some goals. That really kind of helps you get to the final end game. Like let's say if your goal is to run a marathon. Okay. Your first goal should be to run 1.5 miles without stopping. Okay. If you're just starting a running program, and then as the weeks go by, you can add distance, and then as the weeks go by, you can say, okay, I want to run 5 miles in under a certain time. So go baby steps, very gradual changes, getting to your goals, or else it can end up getting you injured or making you discouraged. Okay, and so implement everything slowly and steadily. Okay. I recommend avoiding excessive supplements. These are things that you buy over the counter, vitamins and ergogenics and whatnot. First off, the supplement industry is not regulated. So in other words, the government doesn't test all those bottles and make sure of what's in it. And so research has shown that 25 or 30% of the supplements you buy over the counter don't have what they say they have in it. They have extra stuff, or they don't even have the stuff that they said, or they don't have nearly as much as they said, and you can waste a lot of money or even make yourself sick. So I recommend avoiding excessive supplements.
Dr. deWeber, in your photo, I see a lot of meat on the tables. Do you have any recommendations for Olympians, for a diet that can help them act like an Olympian, perform like an Olympian?
For who again?
A vegetarian.
Yeah. So
you're going to want Sanjay.
You're going to want to consult a dietitian about that for detail, but there are, in summary, there are alternate sources of protein that you can get. You know, tofu being one of them, and vegetable proteins. And you're usually going to want to supplement with iron and vitamin B vitamins, because those are you're probably going to be deficient in those. But I would consult with a dietitian before, if you're a vegetarian and you want to compete. All right, and then the last slide here is kind of a summary about just some general behaviors of Olympic athletes that I observed. First off, they pick their friends and their coaches to set them up for success. So if you always hang out with people who hate to exercise, you're probably not going to exercise. So make some friends of people who like to exercise, or maybe play a sport or something like that. That way you're going to be more likely to do it yourself, and you're going to do it with somebody, you know, that has a like mind. Okay. Now, people who are trying to lose weight, I really strongly recommend that you start keeping track of your weight daily. This may seem frightening, but what research has shown is that the people who not only lose weight but keep it off are the ones who keep accurate daily records of their weight. It's really hard to lose weight if you don't know what's going on in your body. Okay, and so that's just one of the important things. Get a lot of sleep. Okay, 7 to 8 hours a night is important. And I saw this that the athletes pretty much rigorously adhere to. Sleep is super important. It regenerates not only your body but also your mind, and helps you have the energy to do what you need to do. Okay, try to avoid harmful substances. You know, doctors will tell you to quit smoking, of course, and I will too. I definitely don't recommend marijuana. There's more downsides than benefits. It might be legal, but it's still not smart. If you drink alcohol, just keep it in moderation, small amounts, and try to make exercise part of your daily routine. So some people have a time crunch, and if that's the case, then you can do 3 10-minute bursts of exercise throughout the day. You could go walk stairs for 10 minutes before work, and then do 10 minutes during lunch, and then maybe 10 minutes after that. And now you've accumulated 30 minutes of exercise in the day, which is a pretty good goal. But just try to make it part of your routine. I've kind of got my daily routine where I go during my lunch hour to the gym and work out for a little while. That keeps me from sitting around and eating too much during lunch, and keeps me active, and I can take a quick shower and go back. So whatever it is, try to make it a part of your routine. All right, questions. We just got a couple more minutes.
Question from Michelle. She wants to know, 2020 is only 4 years away. Are you interested in Tokyo in 2020?
I'm definitely interested. I just had the time of my life in Rio, and I would just be honored if I got an invitation to work in Tokyo.
Dr. deWeber, thank you so much for the time that you spent with us today. It was very gracious and it was very interesting. Now, we do have some things that we need to
yeah.
We do have some things that we need to do. Yeah, we have to give away the Fitbit winner, and the winner of our Fitbit package is Heather. Heather, you're going to be getting an email from us, and Heather M as in something that starts with M. You'll be getting an email from us with directions, an explanation of how you can get your Fitbit. And for everybody who, if you were joined late, the recording of today's session will be available tomorrow on peacehealth.org/Olympian. And when you leave the webinar today, you're going to have a chance to take a survey. We hope you'll take an extra few seconds to do these survey questions. That helps us to serve you better, and we very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining our seminar today, and thank you, Dr. deWeber. It was a very enjoyable and informative afternoon.
Thanks, Randy. It was a delight.